Hello there, this is Mr. James, and I am back with today's reading lesson. This should be week 3, day 4, and we are broadcasting live from my basement. I haven't said that before, but as you can see up behind me, there are some pictures up there. All of those, by the way, are puzzles that I had assembled. This is a puzzle of the Mariners Stadium, Safeco Field, and these are artist depictions of Safeco Field and Martin Stadium, which is where the Washington State Cougars play. Just thought you might want to know that. All right, so lesson 16, reading. We are going to continue reading the text that we read last time. Our enduring understanding is that learners understand that explorers have had both positive and negative effects on societies, and our essential question is how do readers quote accurately from a text when comparing and contrasting themes and topics. Today, our objective is I can use details and examples to talk about a text. So we want you to be able to discuss or write about a text, and we want you to make sure that you're incorporating those details from the text when you do so. We're going to begin on page 96 as we read today, and we'll continue through the end of the text, which is on page 100. This is once again going to be Secrets of the Canyon Cave. Hopefully you, along with me, determined that this text was a fictional text when we were reading it, but it definitely is on the topic of explorers. So go ahead and open up your text collection to page 96, and please make sure you are following along. All right, I'm just switching views here, getting to my text, and here we go. Remember last time we left off, Brandon and Rhea had found their markings inside the cave, and then there was a storm that was coming. So let's see what happens next.
Good idea. Brandon pulled out his phone and called Ranger Merker while Rhea snapped photos with her phone. He let the ranger know they would get back just as soon as they could, but they were given strict instructions to stay put, since it would soon be nightfall. In the morning, officials would come get them. Morning? Brandon wasn't thrilled at the thought of staying here overnight, with a girl no less. But at least he wasn't alone, and they did have backpacks filled with emergency items. Still, he never intended to be camping tonight. But Rhea didn't seem to mind. Her face was alight with curiosity, as her hands traced the drawings on the walls. Simple scrawlings of stars, the moon, and a big sun shaped like a spiral. Can you believe this, Brandon? This is amazing. It is, he said, but couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in his stomach. They would never win the scavenger hunt now. He should have listened to Rhea and gone toward Gooseneck State Park. Photos of the entrenched river would have won them the hunt for sure. Why did he have to be so cautious all the time? Well, I guess there's nothing to do but wait, he said, plopping onto the cold sandstone floor, crossing his legs. He watched with a heavy sigh as the driving rain pounded the rocks outside. As water pooled into small potholes and crevices, Brandon watched the sky shift from stormy gray to dark coral, then finally to deep purple and royal blue. He'd never slept in the desert before. Would they encounter black bears, coyotes, or worst of all, snakes? He took out his Swiss Army knife and set it next to him, just in case. Rhea sat next to him, unzipped her backpack, and pulled out a water bottle and flashlight. A gust of wind whistled into the cave, chilling Brandon to the bone. The dry canyon was quickly losing its daytime heat. He yanked out his jacket from the backpack and put it on, hugging it close. Soon the clouds cleared away, and night unfurled over the canyon like a giant blanket of black velvet with silver glitter spilled all across it. Brandon ventured outside to admire it. Never in his life had he seen so many bright stars, shooting stars, and faint purple and yellow blotches, which he guessed might be nebula or bands of the galaxy. In the darkness, he vaguely detected shapes scuttling about, lizards or rodents, trying to bring their meals home. In the distance, a coyote howled. Restless, Brandon returned to the cave, doing his best to imagine that he was an ancient Anasazi tribesman, getting ready for a good night's sleep out of harm's way. If they could do it, so can I. Check this out. Ria's voice echoed through the dwelling. He followed her voice and the swaying of her flashlight to the opposite end, where he found her staring at a huge opening between two tall boulders, like a doorway to another world. His gaze fell on what she saw. "What is that?" he asked, gawking at what appeared to be a kind of fence, made entirely out of twigs with twine or dried plant parts, binding the intersections together. "I have no idea," she said. "It's like a grid." Brandon noticed that this wall of interconnected sticks had notches all over it, as if someone had used a sharp object to mark it in random places. "Maybe a trellis for growing plants?" Ria shrugged. "Out here? Plants?" Brandon asked. "What could it be?" He glanced back at the cave walls, drawings of heavenly bodies everywhere. He took out his phone, snapped a photo of the fence, and sent Ranger Merker a text message. "Look what we found. Any idea what it could be?" "What about this?" Ria shone her flashlight at a pointed stick shooting straight up out of the floor about 3 feet behind the wooden grid. How did these two objects belong together? Brandon wondered. Suddenly, a light went on inside his head. He moved over to the pointed stick and squatted behind it. If he aligned his eye to the very top point of the stick, maybe he would see... "That's it! I got it," he cried. "If you look past the end of this stick, it aims right at that star right there. You see it?" He pointed into the open sky. "The North Star?" Ria asked. "I think so." He moved over to the grid and saw that the biggest cut was in the shape of an asterisk, lined up perfectly with the North Star. They used this thing to mark Polaris. He ran his fingers along the other cuts. And these are all the surrounding stars that rotate around it throughout the night. See that star and that one right there? Those make up the Big Dipper. He couldn't believe it. Did Ranger Merker know about this place? Did anyone? He couldn't wait to show his photos to everyone when they got back. Totally amazing! Ria kneeled behind the stick and stared at the North Star through the wooden grid. So this stick is the viewfinder, and the grid is like the binoculars. Amazing indeed. They were truly explorers discovering new things. They gave each other high fives, and then found a corner of the cave where they would sleep for the night. They bundled up their backpacks to use as pillows, and faced the dwelling opening that exposed the northern sky. As he watched the falling stars glide across the sky, Brandon could barely contain his happiness. Here he was, sleeping in the very same cave others had slept in long ago, against a backdrop of cave paintings made by the same people, with an ingenious scientific tool made by human hands over 1,000 years ago. It boggled his mind. "Good decision to come this way," Ria spoke through the darkness. "Thanks," Brandon said. Just then, Ranger Merker's reply text came in. "Wow. Looks like you found an ancient device for measuring latitudes, like the sextants of long ago, or the compasses we use today. Good job, guys. You so win the scavenger hunt. See you in the morning." Brandon smiled widely. "We won," he told Ria. "Of course we did, 'cause we're awesome." Her bubbly, laughing voice echoed throughout the cave. Good night, Brandon. Good night. And with one last contented sigh, he closed his eyes and fell fast asleep.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll have questions that you'll do after this, and then I'll be back a little bit later with you for your vocabulary lesson.